Okay, so I was really on the fence about making a part two, but a lot of people have asked for it, and this one lovely person even went out of their way to comment on my most recent video asking for it. So here it is. I truly am just a servant of the people, I guess. Um, so I really hope you like it. And I'm really sorry for delaying it. The Emerald Prince, written by Whimsical Girl 357 and read to you by Lay Cactus Queen. Chapter 2, Under the Neon Lights. When Midoriya made a plan, he usually stuck to it, which was why he could be found late into the evening at a strip club. He was surprisingly popular, especially with the wealthier clients, and it turned out he could sing and dance pretty well. This brought a lot of progress in the plan. The electricity, heating bills, and rent were paid, a fridge bought and stocked with food, and he could begin self-defense classes. He even had reserve savings, which was satisfying, and enough spare to get a nice futon, though sleeping on something so soft took some getting used to, as did regular meals. He quickly fell into routine. It took a week of full training before he could begin to perform. By then, it was the first week of the last year of junior high. He was surprised how quickly he adapted to the strange environment, the lights, the drunken men and women, and their hands. He felt filthy, but he was earning well and would soon earn more, so he just washed thoroughly when he returned in the early hours and told himself he'd get used to it. A pleasant surprise were his fellow workers, who often had stories to tell far worse than his, their shared suffering making him feel strangely at home. He'd never felt welcome in a place before, and it may be grimy and stuffy, but when he arrived, people would smile at him, which was a nice change. His only solace in his school life had been the school library. It had been run by a quirkless old lady who allowed him to hide in the back room during break and lunch times and read, though he more often than not dived into fiction books, into happy worlds, to live the lives of main characters who were special, who were destined and driven. He did do a fair bit of schoolwork. He'd done enough to be able to take his junior high exams a year early anyway, which the teachers willingly let him do to get rid of the quirkless embarrassment. School out for the year meant Izuku could begin truly working toward his new future. He began doing full workouts every morning, running up and down Dagobah Beach, surprised how much enjoyment he could feel from the exercise despite his frankly shitty life and prospects. He found the same in his self-defense classes every afternoon, where he quickly found out he could actually hold his own against people with quirks. The first time he beat someone with an actual combat-oriented quirk gave him such a rush. He smiled a true Midoriya Izuku smile for the first time in a decade. All the time he wasn't doing this, working, or sleeping was spent on chores and studying. If he could learn the work for next year, he would surely be able to pass entrance exams easily enough, and he'd have to ace them. If any fault could be found, they'd find a way to reject the quirkless kid. That was life. It was a Saturday, a month into his new life, when Izuku first took the next step at his work. It was his virginity on the line, and never in his entire life had it seemed worth 1/100th of the sum the man was paying. He was worthless after all to everyone but himself, but clearly his body was of some value. In spite of the fact Izuku was reconciled to his new reality, he was still nervous as he prepared, shakily applying makeup and adjusting his outfit. His friends, for they understood him like he doubted anyone else ever could, were waiting at his dressing room door. When he emerged, they hugged and patted him, telling him encouraging things and teasing jokes, but he barely noticed. There were things words couldn't help with. He knew that tonight, after all, that last remaining sliver of the old Midoriya Izuku was probably going to die. Overdue or otherwise, it was still a scary thought. He held on so long, but that wide-eyed cinnamon roll may have been a decent person, but being him only brought pain and disappointment. It was scary to think about what would be left, but maybe the stripper Izuku would be a person strong enough to face the battles to come and survive. He walked down a dark corridor hung with heavy red fabric towards one of the many service rooms, unassuming numbered rooms with ebony painted doors. He felt the wood of door number 4 with his fingertips and allowed himself to take a slow, deep breath as he brushed his fingers down to the brass doorknob, gripping the cool metal tightly as he pushed the door open and entered his new reality. It was a small room, barely large enough for the king-size bed in the center, but containing several mirrors to give an illusion of space, and dimly lit so the client's eyes couldn't pick up the signs of those that had gone before them on the room and the people. On the large bed sat an older man, not as old as some of his comrades had, but certainly in his 40s. He was portly, but had the dress sense of someone who hadn't realized. Their eyes met, his glinting in the low light. "Come," he stated. "What do I call you?" Izuku asked softly, slinking forward and straddling the man like how he was trained, and trying to believe that only his body would be soiled in this encounter. "Master." Then Izuku had his first kiss, and his entire world turned upside down. He barely remembered the rest of the night. Parts had been painful, yes. Parts had been pleasurable too, though not many and nowhere near as pleasurable and surprising as what that kiss had revealed. When their lips met, text had appeared across his vision. "Electric skin. Take, copy, leave." The original Midori Izuku hardly died that day. He was reborn stronger than ever. With his job done, Izuku had raced home, ignoring the pain in his hips and barely stopping to pick up his paycheck from his confused boss. So much to think about, it was overwhelming. He had a quirk, with which he could take or copy other people's quirks by kissing them. An opportunity to test this soon arose in the form of a man who attempted to mug him in an alleyway. He was familiar with the city, so often took alleyways and shortcuts in order to get home. He'd be in trouble if he wasn't on time in the past, and since he was in a hurry and preoccupied, he'd taken the route out of habit. A safe route in daylight, but not so much at 1 a.m. Cue electric skin. Izuku had turned and rapidly pressed his bare palm to the tall blonde's chest, invoking the quirk, and the stranger had crumbled to the concrete, though not dead to Izuku's relief. Holy shit! Wait. Izuku strengthened his resolve. For the sake of science. He kissed the unconscious man. Nothing happened. Test complete, Izuku hastily put the man in the recovery position and scarpered back home. A few painkillers and a very thorough bath later found Izuku sat on his bed staring at the hero analysis books he had been too busy to chuck out, piled in the corner of the room. The bedroom had gone through substantial changes since Izuku's liberation and career change, the biggest being that Izuku actually saw it as his room. Apart from the futon, Izuku had bookshelves. They only had a few Japanese classics, some manga, and high school essentials, so far. But just looking at books brought him excitement. At school, the library had always been his favorite place, and book covers contained worlds. Worlds he could explore and be free in, be brave and be curious and not get hit for it. Now, though, he wasn't looking at the forest of books. He was looking at his own notebooks, looking ragged but dignified in their corner. He could go to UA with this. Just when he finally decided to throw that dream away, it could now actually come true. Typical. Izuku grinned. If she hadn't left, when would he have even discovered this? Would he have even kissed a single soul before the end of high school? Not like being quirkless did you any favors romantically, after all. And now he had the perfect job for his quirk, and a whole year of clients with all kinds of quirks to copy. Though he didn't particularly like what he had to do to get them, it would be worth it. He lay down on his bed, invoked his quirk of the day, and watched, genuinely happy for the first time in years, as the white sparks bounced lazily across his pale skin, filling the room with a cold, flickering shadows. He wondered what the drawbacks or range of this quirk were. Electric skin, copied. Ability, induces an electric current in the skin able to cause a 5,000-volt shock to anyone coming into direct contact. Drawback, continuous usage for more than 2 minutes causes user severe migraines. Izuku hastily stopped using the ability. That was cool. He'd have to look into working with this. Well, if it could show him that ability, why not his own? Name, question mark, question mark, question mark. Ability enables user to take, copy, upgrade, give, and fuse quirks. Taking and copying quirks requires the target to willingly kiss the user. Giving quirks requires the user to willingly kiss the target. Warning, if target already has a quirk, this can be fatal. Quirk holding limit, none. Side effects. Those with powerful quirks are subconsciously drawn to the user. Drawbacks. Quirks copied cannot be given to others or upgraded. Fusing quirks drains users' stamina. Quirks will not have any effect on their original owner, and equally, once a quirk is copied, the original owner cannot use their quirk on the user. I'm OP, whispered Izuku. Very, very OP. And then he fell asleep. It had been one hell of a day after all. And that is the second chapter. So yeah, like I said, I really hoped you liked it, and I am so sorry that it took me so long. I really have no excuses. I don't have like a mic and stuff, and so like my audio quality is like really bad, and so I really don't like to film. But with so many people just encouraging and asking, I had to give it to y'all. So keep up with the encouraging words and maybe I'll make another one. Okay. Have a lovely day slash night slash whatever.